Okay, here we are tasting with Pete and Dave. Welcome back, Pete.
Yeah, well,
good to see you back.
Had a little bit of a hiatus, but anyway, we've got an interesting lineup by the look of it, so
Yes.
we'll work our way through these and see what we come up with.
Yeah, now the first wine we got here is French Champagne. Now, we tried this, I tried this and did a bit tasting note on it a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, right, okay.
But, you know, I don't mind repeating tasting notes because we may notice something a little bit different.
Oh, sure.
You have other information, so I really don't
Yeah.
mind going through a wine again. And I think people generally like to be reminded or like to learn new things about wines anyway. So,
Oh, absolutely.
little French Champagne. Now, this is sort of on the budget end of the price
market.
range.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
But it's a lovely little
So
champagne.
what do we got here? Paul Gessner.
Yes,
okay, so
Paul
a
Gessner.
a non-vintage from Epernay as opposed to Reims, the other village that's renowned and famous and all that sort of stuff in Champagne. And
Yeah.
of course, as we all know, if it's got Champagne on the label these days, it must come from that little area,
Yes.
that little village or the area around there. In France, we can't put the word Champagne on the label unless it comes from there. So
Lovely little bubbles in this one.
yeah, it's quite fresh and delicate, Paul Gessner. Not what you'd call a big, robust or broad style of champagne. Definitely an aperitif style, something that you'd have before dinner. The perfect sort of, I guess, pre-dinner drink in a sense. Something that'll break the ice, get people chattering away before they start dinner at a dinner party. It works really well in that context.
I get a really lovely blend of fruit and a nice acid, and
Nice
it's a
acid
real
cut,
fruit,
yes.
real fruit-driven.
Absolutely,
bubbles.
yeah, but not a particularly heavy style, and all the better for it. I mean, that's the element that you want in it.
Yeah, absolutely lovely wine. Now, next one we've got on our list here, another white wine. We've got a Riesling. Now, this is a Clare Valley Riesling.
Okay, what do we got here? Clare Valley Riesling. Oh, this is 2013, so this is pretty young. Siegersdorf, a
Yeah,
bit of a
Siegersdorf.
famous name in Australian wine, traditionally made by the Hardy's people. But again, the idea that you could buy such, I guess, fruit-driven wine from the Clare, and you're paying, a relatively affordable price for it. So
First thing on the nose is that lime. Just
yes, you do get that.
Really
as well, yeah.
jumps out at you.
Yeah, and it's quite a bold, almost in-your-face sort of character. Like, it's a fairly uncomplicated aromatic profile that you're getting with the wine, but it's all Riesling and it's dry. It's a dry style.
Interesting bit of colour in that one already.
Yep.
Something that, you don't always see in old Rieslings that are this young.
No, that's true. In fact, it's quite common in a young Riesling to have an almost water white sort of colour profile with it. This one has picked up a little bit of colour, probably quite ripe fruit and maybe even a bit of skin contact to get some of that colour into the wine. But yeah, a young, fresh and really quite aromatic style, and probably a forward drinking style as well, but something that would be pretty yummy to drink over the next summer, I think.
Absolutely. Okay, next wine we've got here, Pete, is Craftsman Reserve Barossa Shiraz. Now, this is a Grant Burge wine.
Okay,
And, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, so
Full of fruit on the nose.
This is 2011. So
Yes.
yeah, we've seen this previously from 2010, which of course we all know is a great vintage. 11 probably doesn't have quite the same reputation in terms of that sort of character in the Barossa. But this does smell like it's got plenty of sweet fruit on the nose.
Yes. Yeah, I get plenty of sweet fruit on the nose.
Sweet oak as well, but that's, I guess, the Grant Burge trademark or thumbprint, as it were.
Yep, lots of fruit and lots of oak on the palate. Although, having tasted quite a number of Grant Burge's wines, I don't know, is this because it's the 2011 or is it because this is sort of down the ladder a little ways in the label? It doesn't seem to be as big as some of the Grant Burge wines that I've ever had.
Probably not. Well, I guess, 2011, they always say cool and wet and maybe a bit more difficult to getting the grapes right, but, someone like Grant Burge has got access to a lot of fruit, and I guess he can maybe pick and choose where he wants the fruit to come from. And so, essentially the character in that, it's quite a robust style, a little bit leaner than the 10, but some quite nice, appealing, savoury characters, and still some good length on the palate.
Beautiful wine. Now, the next one we've got here, a little bit of a comparison. Got another Grant Burge wine.
Oh, right, okay.
Now, this is also 2011 Barossa Old Vine Shiraz.
Oh, right. This is from his Philsell, well, it's called Philsell, and this is from the Philsell vineyard, which is one of his showpiece vineyards, Grant Burge. So this is,
Wow.
I would guess, a couple of notches above the previous one that we've tried.
Yes, and it's a couple of notches above on the
you
bouquet.
pick it straight away. On the nose, you pick it, a lot more savoury character, bigger, sweeter fruit, and
Bigger,
quite a lot of
bigger
oak
oak as well on the nose. Yeah, I definitely get that across the palate. Wow. And there's a much bigger middle palate in this one as well.
Yeah, there's more flesh on the middle palate, and there's more structure to the wine overall. So you're getting a bit more acid across the middle palate, but also the tannin that comes through, and then a longer finish as well. So
When I look at that wine too, it's a much deeper color. So
yeah. That sort of straight away gives you an idea that you might be in for something a little bit more profound, if you like, than what the previous one was. So
the fruit might have been a little riper with this.
Just a better vineyard and a better source of fruit, and then you could look up from there and say, okay, one's almost like the reserve version of the other in that sense.
Interesting. Always interesting to taste several wines by the same winemaker. Now, the next one we've got here, Pete, this is Stonyfell. Now, this is also 2011. This is Langhorne Creek Shiraz Cabernet Blend.
Oh, right, okay. So here's the traditional Aussie red blend, if you like, something that makes it, I guess, almost quintessentially Australian. It's something that you don't see in other parts of the world, people blending Shiraz and Cabernet, but in Australia we've done it for a long time, and some of our most famous wines have been blends of Shiraz and Cabernet.
Nice deep colour to this wine.
Yeah, and you look at that, the fact that it's labelled as Shiraz Cabernet, so you presume that, there's more Shiraz than there is Cabernet.
Lovely fruit and oak in this wine as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Nice, sweet, aromatic, sweet fruit, bit of sweet oak, but...
Oh, that's beautiful. And there's a really, really well-integrated combination of the fruit and the oak there.
Absolutely, yeah. And then you get those Cabernet tannins, the drying tannins that kick in on the finish.
Yep.
So, a good drink, satisfying drink, and Langhorne Creek always underrated, but it does a good job there.
I didn't get that Langhorne Creek characteristic
not
out of this
quite
one.
The same mintiness.
Eucalyptus, or a mintiness out of this one, but never mind. I guess you don't get it out of everyone.
No, you don't. No.
Now, next one here is the Margaret River Cow Bombi.
Cow Bombi.
Cabernet Merlot. Now, interestingly enough, I didn't know this, Pete, but the Cow Bombi is a monster surf break off of the coast of Margaret River.
Yeah. So you sort of wonder about what surfing has got to do with winemaking, but you never know. And they've got an upside down cow on the label.
It's been around for a while too.
I would say so.
So I would say that quite a few people have had an experience with this wine.
Indeed. Quite fragrant on the nose.
Lovely.
Lovely sort of bit of mintiness, bit of currants, some dark berry fruits on the nose, but a Cabernet character comes through clearly enough on the nose of that. Again, 2010, great vintage in Margaret River as it was in most other places.
Lovely wine, and I feel like this is a sort of wine that you could drink all by itself at the footy game or watching the footy game, or it'd be great at the barbecue.
Oh, backyard barbecue, but at the same time, you could take it out to dinner and it's not going to disgrace itself either. So, light on the medium-bodied side of Cabernet, but very drinkable.
Next one here is the Franklin Tate Estate. Now, we're staying over there in Western Australia. Now, this is a 2011 straight Cabernet.
So presumably it's got Alexander's vineyard, so we don't know who Alexander was or is, but presumably a single vineyard wine. Franklin Tate, of course, the famous name behind the Evans and Tate label. He's the Tate part of it, from the Evans and Tate, and now out on his own, so to speak. Straight Cabernet Sauvignon as opposed to the previous one, so you're getting deeper, darker berry aromatics and then a slightly firmer palate profile.
Much more tannin in this wine. And I also sense in this one just a little bit of a herbaceous. Now, I don't know if that's the stems that might have been crushed at the same time, or if it's the grapes were picked just a week too early, or
could be.
I'm not sure.
A little bit, I guess you could say the grippiness appears to be exacerbated a bit more. There's more obvious grippiness, and And in particular, it doesn't come through as being obvious when you smell it. You don't get any overt underripe character on the nose, and yet there's probably an exaggerated sort of stemmy, grippy character on the palate.
But you get away with that with a Cabernet, don't you?
You do indeed, yeah. And in fact, you do want a little bit of grip on the finish. You do want a bit of tannic grip on the finish of a Cabernet. So if it's going to work, it'll work on Cabernet perhaps more so than it will with Shiraz or with other varieties.
Another wine I wouldn't be ashamed to take to the barbecue.
No, that'd be fine. Well, that'd go well with a bit of protein as well, like a big bit of steak, because those grippy tannins would sort of come into their own a bit when you've got protein on the plate, so to speak.
Yeah. With a bit of pepper on.
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah. That'll work pretty well.
Now, the next one here, Pete. I just love this.
I can see your eyes light up when you look at this.
This is absolutely fantastic. Now, look at the bubbles in that, Pete. This is an Italian wine, Lambrusco.
Yes.
I have a bit of an affinity with this because back in my 20s, I spent 4 years in Italy, and this was one of the wines that I was served quite a bit. I learned a bit about wine starting out with Lambrusco and
So
Chianti.
this was part of your misspent youth, in other words.
It was.
So to speak.
Yeah, now...
Mellow red wine, it says on the label, and I guess that's the art of Lambrusco. You want something clean, you want something fresh, you want something, I guess, that's fun and fruity and easy to drink.
And I love the bubbles on this.
Oh, yeah.
This is great wine. A wine that you could serve with a slight chill on it. It is absolutely fantastic with pizza and pasta.
Yep. Well, particularly pizza. I mean, it's a fun wine. It's not a wine that, I guess, has a reputation for being serious or profound, but it's not meant to be. And good examples of Lambrusco, particularly when they're fresh, can be really quite fun to drink, uncomplicated, easy drinking wine, and as you've said before, a good style of wine to introduce to people, particularly young people who've never actually tried wine before.
Exactly.
And you could say, okay, you can wean yourself off your bourbon and cola cans, you don't need to go and drink light beer all the time. Here's something that has a vinous element about it. It's wine, but the bubbles in it and the slight sweetness across the palate, when it's clean and fresh, it's really quite appealing.
Yes. Yeah, I love it. It's absolutely great. I still pick up a bottle when I make my lasagna or decide I want to have a pizza, or in a hot summer's evening, pull one out of the fridge and enjoy that wine. So, yeah.
Indeed.
Now, little something extra about the Lambrusco. I understand it's made from a specific area in Italy as well.
Yeah, well, it comes from Emilia-Romagna, which is, of course, famous for cheese and various other foodie type elements. It's one of the things that they talk about. You get rich fatty foods that come out of that part of the world, and the Lambrusco goes pretty well with that sort of food.
Exactly. Now another wine here. Now this is by Zonin. This is a Valpolicella. Now this is a really interesting style, and still just a little bit sweet on the palate.
Oh yes, definitely sweet on the palate. You get seriously ripe grapes, if not, in fact, even sometimes overripe grapes. This is upmarket Valpolicella. The three grape varieties they use as the base for it. I was going to say we don't grow them in Australia, but there are people playing around with them now. The Corvina, Rondinella, Molinara. If you mention those grape names to most wine drinkers, they look at you as if you're having a bad dream. Most of them wouldn't have any idea what those grapes are. And in a European context, of course, it's not the grape varieties that they're so bothered about. It's the sum is greater than the sum of the parts.
The bouquet on this.
Absolutely. This is Amarone, so this is upmarket and therefore expensive Valpolicella. But the grapes they use are the same. Valpolicella on its own is not a particularly, highly rated style of wine. It's a quaffer, it's an everyday drinking wine. But Amarone is the upmarket version of it. The grapes quick, fully ripe, and in the best cases they still lay them out on racks and let them dry in the sun, and they get a little bit of a raisiny edge to them. And yeah, it's a really distinctive wine, and it's quite often relatively high in alcohol as well. It's not uncommon for this to be 16% alcohol, Valpolicella, Amarone in particular. And it's a style of wine that Australians don't see a lot of, but we can quite readily understand it because it's big by European standards.
2009 vintage, and on the bouquet, I can sense a little bit of that sweetness, like you say, that raisin, dried raisin.
Absolutely, yep. And that is a fundamental part of the style.
And across the palate, oh wow, that is just so full of flavor.
big flavours.
There's a dryness to this, but there's still a bit of a sweetness in the middle palate.
Yeah, you're getting mid-palate sweetness, but you're getting quite a dry tannin finish.
Yes.
But a big wine in every respect and a really distinctive style of wine.
Yep. And I would highly recommend this to someone who is just starting out on reds as well, because it doesn't have that grippy, bitey sort of a tannin, but there is a subtle sweetness in this wine.
Absolutely.
So someone would really appreciate, who is starting and learning about appreciating red wines.
Well, and also
could
it's
enjoy
something
this.
that you could say to somebody, if you're going out, if you're having Italian at home, or you're going to an Italian restaurant and you want to take something a bit different and an upmarket style and impressive sort of wine, particularly if you're going to be having slow-cooked, lamb shanks or something like that, like a big meat dish, this will go really well with that sort of wine. So.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, thanks, Pete, and good to have you back.
And we'll have another look at something next week.
And we'll see you again next week.